Now, this little sign here, my next point I want to make is to have a niche. And I just want to say, when you're deciding what to sell, it's absolutely fine to have a really small niche. So I know somebody who sells ebooks on how to make candles, and that's what she does. And that's a tiny niche. But the thing is, because we're talking about online, you've got the whole world as your potential market. And if only a fraction of a % of the population are interested in making candles, that's plenty for you. So, but even a small niche is going to be fine. If you're setting up a market stall, it's got to be something pretty big because you're only going to have a few hundred people going past your stall on a typical day. But with the internet, your niche can be as tiny as you want it to be, and you'll still be fine. So if what you're interested in and what you like doing and what you're good at is a tiny niche, that's fine. In fact, some people say you have to have a niche. You have to decide what your specialist thing is. Now, I've got a number of different subjects I teach, and that's been fine for me. So I've gone for, if you like, a multi-niche kind of strategy. But if you've only got one niche, that's fine. The next thing, this bag of money here, is to talk about investing. And the good news is you don't have to borrow. In fact, don't borrow a whole load of money, and don't pay a whole load of money for a franchise. They've probably gone up, but when I last looked at franchises, they were kind of $30,000 or $40,000 or £30,000 or £40,000 to buy a franchise. And what do you get? You know, you might get a geographical area that's yours, but quite often you don't even get that. You just get a little book that tells you how to sell your product, a few tips for marketing. Probably not much more than you're going to get from this video, to be honest. And you might get a sort of a product that's got a brand name, but maybe people won't have heard of that brand name. Maybe it's not worth a lot. So I would be very suspicious about forking out 30K before I even start. And I definitely wouldn't want to do anything where I have to borrow money. So a good business, you can start really small and you can build up, and it will grow. It will grow anyway. So you shouldn't need to have to buy thousands of pounds worth of stock up front. You should be able to buy a really small amount, like £20, $20 worth, sell that for 30, and then you buy 30 and you sell it for 50, and then you buy 50 and you sell it for 80, and you should be able to just build it up, because if it's a good business, you'll be able to do that. So be really careful about putting loads of money in up front and then not being able to shift the stock that you've bought. The good news is you don't have to take the risk of those. So I'm going to put X's against those because you shouldn't be doing them. Now, the next thing, the row of small dots, the medium and the big, this is really, there's 2 points within here. The first one is, you need to think about, am I going to sell lots of small profit items, or am I going to sell a small number of high value items? So am I going to sell hundreds of ebooks for $3.99 and make $1 profit or something? Or am I going to sell, a residential training weekend for £2,000 per person, and there's going to be 10 people on it, I'm going to make 20K in one weekend. So are you going to go for high value or are you going to go for low value? Well, the advantage of low value, of course, is it's easy to get started. You can just make your ebook and stick it out there and see if you sell any. But what you'll find is it's going to be hard to sell a lot. And if you do sell a lot, the admin starts to be significant. You get people with problems, mine didn't arrive, I can't work the website, etc. So generally, it's better to do the high value items if you can. But that requires a bit of confidence, because you've got to think of what your high value item is going to be, and then you've got to sell it. So there's a thing called the value ladder, where you start selling the thing down at the bottom, and then you move up through the value ladder. So I'll give you an example of mine. I've been selling courses on Udemy, and they're usually reduced to about $15 or $20, of which I get a third, by the way. So if it sells for $15, I get $5. So I'm making $5 about 30 times a day. And if you work it out, that's not bad money, actually. But I've been thinking, what could I go up higher on my value ladder? So the next level up on my value ladder was something called the Life Skills Collection. I'm going to write that here. And this is still available, actually, you can still get it. And I hired a coach, and I paid him £2,000 a month to help me with this, and it was really worth it. So hiring a coach is not on my list, but actually it could be worth thinking about. And he said we should make a collection, we call it the Life Skills Collection, of everything you've ever made, Chris. And they can buy the whole lot for about, say, $300. So instead of paying 20 times for 400, for just 300, they can get 20 courses and a load of extra things as well. A community where people can compare notes and handouts and quizzes and audio files and a free book and all sorts of stuff. So we made this bundle, which you could call a medium value items, $300. So we've gone from 20 or 30 to 300. And the Life Skills Collection is still available. You can get it if you want. And it is great value, and everybody who's bought it has loved it. And then we started thinking, what's going to be the high value item? What can we move up to from a collection of video training courses? And we decided it would be coaching, one-to-one coaching from me. And rather than coaching in project management or negotiating or one of the subjects of these training courses, we thought the best thing for me to teach people would be how to be a trainer. Because I've been a face-to-face trainer for 20 years, and I've also been doing online training via Zoom. So I can do face-to-face or online. And you can earn a really good living being a trainer. You can earn about between $1,000 and $2,000 a day. So if you think of, say, $1,500 a day, and if you just do 100 days a year, that's 2 days a week. So 100 times 1,500 is $150,000 a year from 2 days a week. So being a trainer is a great life, and I've been doing it for years, so I know all about how good it is, but also how to do it. So I set up a thing called Successful Trainers, which you can still find, Successful Trainers. And this was my high ticket item, if you like. And this was £2,000 a month, and it would probably take about 6 months to learn everything that I know about being a trainer. Now, I'm not saying you should do this, but this is an example for you of a high ticket item. So $2,000 for a month for about 6 months. So that's about $10,000 or $12,000 people were going to pay. Now, I'm breaking my rule a bit because I'm doing B2C rather than B2B. And it wasn't easy to find people who wanted to do it. But the point is, if it costs you $10,000 to learn how to earn $150,000, it's really worth doing. So we've had some people going through that, and it's worked, it's great. And there are trainers out there who I've trained. So it's been a good process. But what I've done now is I've got fed up with running that. So I've actually gone back to a medium ticket item with this, and I've made it into Successful Trainers Online. So having developed all the material, and as I was training people, answering all their questions during coaching sessions, I've put all of that into an online product. So for about £400, you can buy the whole lot, and it gets sent to you twice a week for 6 months, just automated. So you don't get me anymore, but you get all the materials, lots of videos of me explaining everything. So I've gone back to a medium ticket item, Successful Trainers Online, mainly because I don't need to run the high ticket item because I've got money coming in from my videos on Udemy. So that's all a bit complicated, but some examples there of, are you going to go for low, medium or high ticket items? And ideally you'd have a value ladder so that when people buy the low ones, they think, well, what's the next level up? Oh, I could buy the whole collection. And oh, actually I could get him to coach me because I like his courses. So for you, what would be the logical progression from selling little things to selling big things? And that's the concept of the value ladder. Now, I've just got 2 more things to tell you on the how do I decide what. And the first one is, do you sell it first or do you design it first? And you would think the obvious way to work would be to design whatever it is you're going to do. Get the stock, buy the stock in, or design the course, or get the website made and then sell it. But the problem with that is, what if you spend ages designing it, developing it, and then you can't sell it? And in fact, I don't think that'll happen, but what will happen is you'll design it, and then when you come to sell it, you'll find that it's not quite what they want. They want to change 10 or 20%. Can we have it a bit different? And you'll be thinking, oh, I've got to go back and change all that now. And you may have spent a load of money that you can't get back. It might be hard to change it. So I think the best thing is to have your idea and then sell it. Sell it when you can't deliver it. Sell it when you've got nothing. Just start advertising it in whatever method we're going to come to in part 2 of this talk. And then when you get orders coming in, then you'll find a way to fulfill them. I know this sounds a bit scary, but you'll find a way. And quite possibly when you sell it, you'll realise then that customers actually want something slightly different. So then you design exactly what's right and you can deliver it. So actually I would sell before designing and then do the designing. And then my final thing I want to say when we're thinking about what is, and this is really going to link into the how, is something that you can do in parallel with your work. So ideally, you'd have a job that's paying the wages and paying for your house and your food and things. And in parallel with that, you'd have a side hustle going. In the evenings or the weekends, you'd be doing a little bit of whatever else is happening. And if it starts to be successful, then you start to know it's going to work. And then you could start to maybe take some days of holiday from work and start doing this on those days off. Or even ask work if you can go to 4 days or 3 days a week instead of 5. Now you'd have to have a pay cut probably, but you would then be able to use those days to build this business. So you never want to just totally chuck in your job before you've even got it worked out. I mean, that would be very risky. So I would say run it in parallel, make sure it's starting to work before you start to give up your day job. Now, if they won't let you do anything in parallel, then that's a bit more difficult. It might be worth getting a different day job. You could perhaps apply for a part-time job somewhere else. And once you've got that, that will give you the freedom to develop this in parallel. But you want to be the lowest risk that you can be by doing the two in parallel. Now, if you've been made redundant and you've got no job, then obviously you could just plunge straight into this. But even then, I'd be tempted to get another job, at least a part-time one, just to keep the wolf from the door while I'm building this. Because you don't want to be under desperate time pressure of, you're running out of your savings. So you want to have some sort of job that at least pays the bills while you build up your business in parallel. So those would be my top 10 tips for how to think about what you're going to do. Now let's move on to the how you would do it.